Ah, Animus magic. My old arch-nemesis. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to see what might have happened if Tsunami had hatched an Animus. Ironically, I actually think Tsunami would make a very good Animus because she's very self-reliant, and I think she would try not to rely on her magic just because she wants to be able to say that she doesn't need it, if that makes sense. I think she'd be like, I got this handled, no need for magic. At least, I thought that would be a more interesting take on it than her just using magic to solve all their problems, like every other Animus story. So without further ado, let's get into it. When Tsunami finally realized she was an Animus, it didn't actually come as a life-changing type of realization. They'd read about Animus dragons, of course, so she knew what they were, but Tsunami could never have imagined that she was one. They'd been hunting in the halls, another training session with Dune. Tsunami had chased a chicken into a bat cave and, in a fit of frustration, shouted at the bird to stop moving. And to her shock, it had. She'd been 2 years old at the time, but even then, Tsunami had known that it was a big deal. At first, she'd been excited. See, she didn't need some dumb prophecy to be awesome. She had a cool magic power, and she could totally use it to make Kestrel bite her own tail. But then, Tsunami had thought about what would happen if she did that. If she told everyone that she was an Animus dragon. The Guardians would freak out and probably be even more awful somehow. Plus, Tsunami had read about Animus dragons. All the stories ever talked about was their powers, never their strength or their ferocity or their bravery. Tsunami wanted to be admired and respected, but she wanted dragons to admire her, not some magic powers. If she had these powers, dragons would always wonder if she was using them in secret. They'd never believe that she was really strong or skillful. They'd always think she was cheating. That's what it was, cheating. Tsunami didn't need any dumb magic to be awesome. She would keep it a secret, and nobody would find out. As the years progressed, Tsunami grew to be grateful she'd kept her magic a secret. And not just because she wanted to stand on her own 4 claws. The Guardians were obsessed with this stupid prophecy, and they only got worse as the Dragonettes grew older. The more she thought about escape, the more Tsunami realized her secret might be the surprise the Dragonettes needed to get free. The Guardians didn't know she was an Animus. They wouldn't realize it was even something to worry about. She still wanted to escape on her own. She'd kept it a secret for so long, Tsunami didn't know what the other Dragonettes would think about her lying to them. And Tsunami wanted to be the one to save them. All on her own. Powers were stupid anyways. Look at where the Nightwing's dumb powers had gotten her. The night everything went wrong, Tsunami almost broke her promise to herself. She almost used the magic to free herself so she could explore the underground river herself. But instead she used it on Clay. Quietly, muttered under her breath so nobody could hear. "Don't let him drown," she ordered the river, glaring intently at it. "Push him to the air before he drowns." Clay noticed her staring at the river, and connected the dots, realizing she already had an escape plan without realizing why she was talking to the river. Lashing her tail, Tsunami admitted that she did, but didn't try very hard to convince him to stay behind. Clay would be all right. Tsunami still had her secret. And after tonight, she'd be out in the real world, proving herself without any powers. The Dragonettes did escape, only to run into Queen Scarlet as soon as they left the waterfall. When Clay stabbed her tail, the two of them turned to run. Tsunami had no time to consider casting any spell on the Queen to make her forget them, or to keep her from chasing them. She regretted it later when Scarlet found them in the caves. She didn't care that Dune was dead, but Tsunami felt it was her fault that Scarlet had found them. But she wasn't used to using her power. She never did, and she'd never truly needed it. Not like she did when the Skywings attacked. But in the confusion, everything moving so fast, Tsunami didn't think about her magic right away. She thought about her claws, and her teeth, and her tail. And when the Skywing guard she was fighting pushed her into the rock, she didn't have time to say a word before she hit her head, and darkness rushed over her. When she woke up, she was chained above the Skywing arena. Things came to a head when she finally entered the arena. The Sea-Wing she went up against was obviously unwell. His eyes rolled and foam flecked his snout. Tsunami spent a few moments darting away from him, and then decided it was time to try something new. She still hadn't used her magic yet. Nobody was hurt yet, and Tsunami was still worried the others would be mad at her for lying. But now she didn't have a choice. Tsunami had to survive. But she didn't want to kill this dragon. Scrambling as he lunged at her, howling incoherently, Tsunami seized a talonful of gritty arena sand. "Heal him," she whispered frantically, before whirling to toss the sand into her attacker's snout. He stumbled, wings flaring as he lost his balance in surprise, clawing at his snout. For a moment, Tsunami thought it hadn't worked, and she bristled, preparing to attack him while he was surprised. But then he shook his head, blinked, and looked at her. Really looked, and his eyes weren't filmy anymore. They stared at each other in shock for a moment. Skywing started booing above them. "Quick," Tsunami blurted. "Keep fighting me." Still looking shocked, he stood frozen for a moment. Then, with a lumbering step, he jumped at her again. Tsunami darted back, wings tucked close. "Who are you?" he asked. His voice was deep and smooth. "How did I don't remember." "I'm Tsunami," she said. She swiped at him lazily, and he moved to the side. "And I don't know," she cried. You looked—" She stopped. How could she explain what she'd done? What had she been thinking? He'd probably just kill her, and... His eyes raked over her, and he started. "What?" Tsunami bit, surging forward to claw at his wings. She didn't dig in, though, and her claws slid down his scales as he shifted away. "Your wings," he said. "Who are you?" Now she was confused. "What about them?" she snarled. He stopped again, staring at her suspiciously. Then the pale green scales on his neck flashed, several near his shoulders, then one higher up and two on his snout. Tsunami blinked. Was that supposed to be some kind of attack? Was he trying to distract her? "Fight! Do something!" Someone howled nearby, and they sprang back into action. Though from the increasing murmur coming from the crowd, Tsunami suspected they were growing bored. "I'm Gil," he said, as they wrestled on the sand. "Where are you from?" Tsunami said. He must not have heard what Scarlet said about who she was. Well, he didn't look like he'd been all that coherent at the time. "I'm one of the Dragonets of Destiny? Ew. Prophecy. Ew." He looked shocked again, but recovered quickly. He shook his head sharply, then looked at her. "You're an Animus?" he asked, still sounding surprised. Tsunami's heart beat faster despite herself, but there was no hiding it. She'd literally healed him with magic. "Yes," she gritted. "Then you need to listen," he said hurriedly. "Animus powers are hereditary, Tsunami. They can only be passed down by blood." She blinked in surprise. She hadn't known that. "I know who your family is," he said, and Tsunami's heart stopped. She froze, fake fight forgotten as the noise of the crowd faded for a moment. All she could see was the green Sea-Wing before her. "You know who my family is?" she cried. "How?" "I'll explain later," he promised urgently. "Right now you need to listen. How much have you used your powers?" "Only a few times," Tsunami said bristlingly. "I don't need them," she started, but he cut her off. "Good," Gil said fervently. "Never use them unless you absolutely must. But right now," he winced, "is one of those times. You need to use your powers to help us escape. I can help you get back to your family," he said. Tsunami thought about it, hope filling her. She'd always wondered who her family was, and Gil claimed to know them. Could he be lying? She tried to think about it and not rush in like the others were always telling her. What did he stand to gain? Escape, obviously, but that wouldn't hurt her. If he betrayed her, they outnumbered him 5-1. It would be okay. "Okay," she said. "But we're rescuing my friends, too." "Who?" he asked, bewildered. "The other 4 Dragonets," Tsunami said. "They are here, too." "Okay," Gil said. "Give me a minute to think. We need a spell that will get the 6 of us free without using too much power. Keep fighting me until then." The shouts from the crowd were still growing louder and more upset, so Tsunami tried to look like she was really fighting, but it was hard. She was overwhelmed with the new revelation, and the idea of someone knowing her secret after so long. Plus, if she did what he said, soon everyone else would know too. And what did Gil mean about not using too much power? Why had he told her to never use her powers? She thought Animus powers were, like, unlimited. What did he know that she didn't? "Okay," he said, slightly out of breath from their lengthy fight. "Here's what we're going to do." A few minutes later, their battle ramping up, Tsunami lunged closer to Gil, claws raking down his neck, whispering as she brushed the metal collar that connected the wires to his wings. This time, her claws left deep gouges in his neck, and red blood spurted from the wounds. He staggered, dropping back and collapsing into the sand. The crowd roared, and Tsunami stepped back, feeling a little sick despite herself. The Skywing guards flew down to take Gil away. Others flew Tsunami back to her spire. This time, she didn't fight them. She simply let them take her, and she waited. Much later that night, Tsunami was sitting on her spire, unable to sleep, when Gil finally appeared. He flew up to her, claws clutching the collar that had been around his neck. "Enchant this collar to make it look like Gil is dead, and also to unlock anything it touches," Tsunami had whispered, under Gil's instruction, as she clawed his neck. And it had worked. Even knowing it was a spell, Tsunami had been a little unnerved by the blood and the sight of Gil flopping to the sand, and appearing to stop breathing. "Are you all right?" she asked, standing up in agitation. "Shh," he admonished. "I'm okay. A little bruised from when they dropped me in the ravine." Once he was dead, the Skywings dropped Gil in the ravine where they'd left all the arena's victims. Once night fell, he used the collar to unlock his wings, and then he was free. Tsunami had been a little worried he wouldn't come back. She'd promised herself that if he didn't appear by dawn, she'd try something else. Maybe enchant her spire to fall on Scarlet and crush her. But here he was, and he brushed the collar over her own bonds, prompting little clicks as they unlocked eerily. Tsunami shook off the last of the wires, stretching her wings and wincing at the sore muscles. "I don't know where 2 of my friends are," she said, "but the other 2 are on the spires, and I know Glory's somewhere in the palace." She pointed out Clay and Starflight on their spires. Both were unmoving, asleep. "Okay," Gil said, tapping his claws together thoughtfully. "Why shouldn't I use my powers?" Tsunami asked. I mean, I don't need them," she said hurriedly. "I'm just... Is there a limit? Do I run out at some point?" He looked at her curiously. "There isn't a limit, as far as we know," he said after a moment. "But Tsunami," and his voice was very grave, "Animus powers come with a price. The more a dragon uses them, the more they pay. And the price is your soul. Nobody knows how much is too much, but Animus dragons who use their powers too much can go insane." Tsunami stared at him, eyes wide. She knew her powers weren't a good thing, and now she'd been proven right. "You can use them," he said carefully, "but only in the direst of times. Like now." She swallowed. "We should split up," Gil said. "I'll go unlock your friends. You find your other friends, and then meet us over there." He pointed a claw to the river, winding through the forest far below them. "From there we can get back to the Kingdom of the Sea." "You'll need a spell to stay hidden," Gil continued, "and another to unlock anything in your way. That's 2 spells." Tsunami nodded. She wouldn't use a spell to find them. She'd do that herself. If she enchanted something to keep her hidden, nobody would notice even if she had to spend a while looking. "Will you be okay out here?" she asked. Gil nodded. "It's dark tonight," he said. "We'll be careful. You do the same." "Okay," Tsunami said. For a moment, Gil looked at her, and she didn't understand the expression on his face. Then he turned, swooping off the spire and gliding on silent wings toward Starflight. Tsunami took a deep breath. She could do this. The palace was very dark and mostly quiet. Tsunami skirted a few guards, unable to breathe as she slowly walked past them. She'd taken one of the short wires and wrapped it around her claws, enchanting it to make her invisible and keep any skywings from noticing her. She'd almost said any dragons, but then she'd realized Glory and Sunny wouldn't be able to see her if she did that. That and the spell she'd done so she could unlock their chains had made her nervous. Gil hadn't known when her powers might make her go crazy. Suddenly she was more glad than ever she'd used them so sparingly until now. She found Glory in the throne room, curled around that awful metal tree. She seemed like she was asleep, scales drifting in dark gray and blue. Tsunami crept closer, then tapped Glory on the shoulder. "Glory," she whispered, then jumped back as her friend came to life with a hiss, swiping at her. "Glory," Tsunami said a little louder. "It's me, you salamander." Glory paused, looking at her in confusion and blinking. "Tsunami?" she said. "Yeah," Tsunami huffed. "So try to leave my face in one piece?" "What are you doing here?" Glory asked. "Rescuing you, duh," Tsunami said. "Come on, I'll explain once we're safe," she added, brushing the wire over the thin chains hanging from her friend. The locks clicked and the chains dropped with a metallic jingle. Glory stared at Tsunami, for once too stunned to speak. "I don't think I've ever seen you this surprised," Tsunami snickered, feeling a little smug despite herself. "The guards are going to see you," Glory whispered after a moment, flowing off the tree elegantly. "No, they won't," Tsunami promised. "Just make sure they don't see you." Glory's scales shimmered, and she slowly faded from view until Tsunami couldn't see her at all. "Ugh," she said. "Make sure I don't lose you, okay? Do you know where Sunny is?" "Yes," Glory whispered. "Follow me." She brushed a wing against Tsunami's, and using the touch, she followed the rainwing through the palace. They walked through the halls until they came to a wide chamber, open to the air on the sides. Hanging from the ceiling in a cage slumped Sunny, looking dejected and dull. "Sunny," Tsunami called softly as she bounded over, Glory somewhere beside her. The sandwing's head shot up. "Tsunami!" she whispered in surprise. Her green eyes were wide. "You're okay," she crowed. "Are you? Where are the others? How?" "Shh," Glory admonished, shimmering into view, barely. "She'll explain later." Her look said Tsunami better. "Come on," Tsunami said, unlocking the cage. "Let's get out of here." Gil, Clay, and Starflight were waiting for them near the river. "Clay! Starflight!" Sunny cried, bounding over to them as they landed. "Sunny," Starflight said. Clay and Glory were both looking at Tsunami. Gil was watching the sky. "We need to go," he said. "The sun will rise soon." "Right," Glory said, eyes narrowed. "But first, I need an explanation." "Yeah," Starflight said, looking up. "I thought you killed him," he said. "And how did you escape?" Glory added. Tsunami swallowed. Then she admitted it. "I'm an Animus," she said, setting her wings and looking at them. "I used my magic to escape. Gil helped." "What?" someone cried, and then their voices ran together in a babble of confusion. "Hey!" Tsunami Whisper shouted over them. "Stop yelling!" "Why didn't you tell us?" Clay asked. "How long have you known?" Starflight added. "Why didn't you do anything earlier?" Glory growled. Tsunami shifted. "I didn't want anyone to know," she said. She fumbled then, unable to answer the rest of their questions. She just hadn't wanted anyone to know. To her surprise, Gil stepped in then. "Tsunami was right not to use her powers," he said. "Animus magic has a price. It can drive its users insane. And trust me," he added gravely, "you don't want to see that." "Who are you again?" Glory asked, scathingly. Gil looked at Tsunami. "I know Tsunami's family," he said finally. "Animus powers can only be passed down through blood." Everyone stared at him in shock. "We need to leave," Gil said finally. "If we can get to the Kingdom of the Sea, Queen Coral will protect you. We can talk more once we're further from the palace." Everyone was quiet for a moment. He's right, Starflight sighed, finally. Thanks for saving us, Sunny said, wrapping her golden wings around Tsunami. Tsunami smiled. Of course, she said. Let's get out of here, Clay muttered, and Glory scoffed. I couldn't agree more, she said, and the 6 of them took off, heading for the coast. Alright, everyone. I kind of feel like Coral is the parent pushing an enemy to use her powers. I think Gil, had he been there, would have been more careful and worried for his daughter. Because there's no way the Seawings forgot what happened with Albatross. Like, I'm sorry. There's no way they don't know about the insanity thing. So anyhow, it'll be interesting to see how that works out when they get back to the Sea Kingdom. Now, this wraps up Season 3 of my What If series, but don't worry, I will be back with another season in a little bit. And we'll kick it off with a Part 2 for this story. I have a lot more I want to address, including Gil admitting that he doesn't just know Tsunami's family, but he is Tsunami's family, as well as a reunion in the Sea Kingdom. But, oh well, I guess you'll just have to wait and find out what happens. If you enjoyed this video, I do have other What Ifs available. You can check those out if you want. Also, remember to check the description of this video. I have links to my Patreon, where the Part 2 of this What If is going to be released very soon. So they're getting extremely early access over there. They're also going to get early access to the finales of the other 9 episodes from this season. Also in the description are links to my store and my DeviantArt. Check that out if it sounds cool. Thank you so much for watching, and y'all have a blessed rest of your day.
But no one makes me feel less alive. We're fighting fire. The way you push my buttons just right. We're fighting